Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. An exciting pickup this morning. It's a faulty NEC PC Engine Supergrafx. So without further ado, let's just get the lid off. You can see it's boxed. Look at the state of it. Hang on. Yeah, hopefully you can see what I'm talking about. Look how dirty this is. It's absolutely filthy. It's like got soil on it or something. I don't know, it's super dirty. I don't know about Supergrafx, it's super dirty. Yeah, it's got a chip there. The seller didn't point that out in the advert. I'm going to complain about that actually. That's annoyed me. And I think the seller's been tinkering inside here because you know, he put a picture of the motherboard up on the advert as well. So yeah, I mean, it's overwhelmingly large. You know, it doesn't really need to be. You think of the original PC Engine, it's about this size of this piece here in entirety. So it's a pretty big board. So how this varies from the original PC Engine, you know, because this was a later model. This is one of the last, I think, PC Engine models, if not the last. In fact, it was the last because there were only 5 games came out for this. There's not very many, but it supports the original. You know, it's the original Hue cards you put in here, and I think you can connect up a CD unit. You've got an external bus connector here in the back lock. There's a flap there. I can pull that off later. So we can connect up the Super SD System 3 to this later. Well, if I can get it working. But what makes this different? It's got twice as much VRAM, I think, and it's got two VDPs instead of having. You know, the HUC6270, so having one of them for the graphics, you've got 2 of them, and then there's a chip that sits in between, does some arbitration, I think, you know, and control of those 2 chips to decide what gets used when. There's a little switch under somewhere, there it is, I think it is, to switch between 2 different modes, and I think one mode gives you like proper compatibility with the old cards, and the other one is like the, I don't know, the Supergrafx ones, I think. Could be wrong. So as I say, this is described as faulty. It's been RGB modded, look. Awful cable. I think he said it was blowing fuses originally. So yeah, well, without further ado, we'll just have a look inside it. I'm not even going to try and power this up. We'll have a look inside it and see what we can find. So to get inside this, I was expecting I would need to use, you know, one of these game bit type things, but no, it's actually Phillips screws by the looks of things. There might be some game bit screws inside, but all the ones on the outside, as far as I can see, you know, sort of positive head style. The Phillips probably isn't the right term because the Japanese have their own positive head format. I don't know what it's called, Posi-Drive or something, I think it is, rather than you know, Phillips. I could be wrong. Post down below if you know more, but yeah, that's why this screwdriver never makes a very good fit with some of these Japanese positive screw heads. But I've got another screwdriver that works really well with them actually. So having got those screws out of the way, the lid just came off. Now the shielding just comes off. So yeah, you can see someone's been tinkering because we've got you know, some sort of RGB mod here with some really fuzzy solder points there actually. So again, I'm just going to dig a bit deeper. So that screw's not even in there, look. I don't know whether someone's broken the screw mount underneath or just not bothered screwing it back in, but anyway, we'll get the remainder of the screws out. There are a couple here at the back. I'm not sure whether they need to come out just yet or not, but you know, we'll remove them anyway. And then we'll just try and get the board out and have a look at the other side of it. Some of these are just going round and round and round, which makes me think that someone's damaged the plastic mounts for these actually. So I need to unhook this on the back here, look. I don't know what that is, it's a little flap, look. Oh god, I might have to undo this RGB mod because obviously the RGB mod is going to hinder me. It's the power socket. Let's just lift that out, there we go. And then hopefully we can kind of just flip this over this way. And just have a look around the board. Yeah, so this side looks untinkered with. I don't see anything having been replaced. You can see the fuse, is gone. So my first thoughts are, well, the fuse is gone. Let's just make sure no one's bridged it. No, it's been soldered, so maybe someone did swap it out or something, but the fuse is gone. So it's strange that the fuse would have gone. You know, that could indicate that one of these chips has failed somewhere. So if we check this diode here, I'll show you. There's no short there, but I mean, that doesn't look like a normal rating to me. It could be a Schottky diode or something, 220, that's quite low there. So where's the ground VCC? So we've got in and out down that regular. Let's just measure that. So I don't know if you can see on the silk screen, it says in on the left, ground's going to be in the middle. So if we measure between the middle and in, nothing. Middle and out, yeah, we haven't got any shorts there. maybe it's just the fuse that's blown. You never know. I'll inspect closely just to make sure there's no bad connections or anything short anywhere. And then what I might do is just put another fuse in and just give it a try. Yeah, I'm wondering if this has had reverse polarity that's blown the fuse. That might be all that's wrong here, because measuring between the in of the regulator and the ground and the out of the regulator and the ground, I don't see any direct shorts, and I don't even see any low resistances, if I'm honest. So that failing like that, it's hard to explain. It could be that something failed in one of the chips here, and when it happens you can have a large spike of current, but it doesn't always necessarily leave a short in one of these chips. I've seen that before. So you never know, I might change the fuse and it might still not work, but we might get some sort of behaviour. There are obviously things to consider here, like, I mean, look at the size of these solder points here. Some of those look like they could be short and stuff. I don't know if there's a 5-volt connection around there. Everything else kind of looks okay. You know, there's no telling whether someone's streaked a bit of solder over something somewhere, bridge something. I mean, look at that connector there, it looks a bit dirty. But I think that's just the original flux by the looks of things, so I mean I can clean that up, but I don't think that's the issue. So yeah, I think right now I'm going to replace the fuse and just power it up and see what we're getting in terms of voltage on the regulator actually. So, unorthodox testing method, I've clipped the negative of my power supply here onto the screw that goes through the shield in here, and I've just made sure it connects to the centre pin on the 7805 regulator there. The pin on this side here is the 5 volts out. I've measured that because it connects to the corner pin here on this chip. So I set the bench power supply to just under 5 volts here. It's on half an amp at the moment, it's current limited. And if I just connect this, the voltage doesn't drop, and if I switch it onto the 1 amp range, again the voltage, it doesn't drop, it stays at 5 volts. So if we just feel the tops of the chips here, again you should be wearing an ESD wrist strap, stone cold. So that makes me think that this, unless one of these chips has got a fault but not a short, this should be working. So I'm going to go connect this up to the TV using the bench power supply. We'll just see whether it works or not. Well, it didn't switch the TV over onto the right channel because the SCART lead is not properly wired. But you can see we've got a white screen. That's kind of normal. So let me get a U-card. Let's just see if this is actually booting U-cards. Oh my god, it works! Yeah, I mean the video's awful there. It shows you how awful that RGB lead is. It's terrible. But it is working. I can't believe it. Now the thing is, that's just normal mode, isn't it? That's just the normal PC Engine mode. I'm trying to think what I could do. I could connect up the Super SSD System 3. Obviously going to need to unplug the controller in for this as well, just to make sure it is actually starting the game. But the CPU's there, one of the initial VDPs is there, the RAM seems to be okay. It is actually working. So let me switch that off. I'll go and get the Super System 3. Well, it's booting the Super SD System 3 as well. Switch it off, plug the controller in, always a good idea. On any of these systems, even computers, old computers, don't plug things in while it's on. Right, so that's the controller plugged in. Switch it back on again. As you can see, it's working. Controller's working. Yeah, this is the one with CD-ROM, so I still can't boot. Yeah, these are all ISOs. I mean, we can try. Let's just try R-Type complete, see if that works. But I'm guessing I just looked out here. This is just like amazing. And I'll explain as well. I couldn't have afforded this without all the help I've had recently. I had someone point me towards this particular purchase here, and it's contributed 50% of the cost of it. And with some of a little bit of the Patreon money that that you guys have helped provide, I've been able to pick this up. This is something that was out of my price range, especially in the position that I'm at the moment with no job. So this is just amazing. Got no sound, have we? So maybe we've still got a problem. Mind you, it could be that dodgy cable that's giving us no sound. What I could do is plug the video into the back of the Super SD System 3 there to see if we've got sound and stuff. Because at the moment it's silent, as you can hear. Oh, I've got sound there, we just lack and see the audio. Fantastic. Yeah, so swapping over to the cable coming out of the Super SD System 3, we've got proper sound and stuff mixed now. and the picture just looks so much better than it did coming out of that stupid cable. I think what I'm going to do is just clean up the board, remove the mods that have been done, revert them, and just replace the fuse, and I think it'll be alright. We need to test that 7805, maybe the 7805's failed, but I don't think so. We can test that in a similar way. We can put the power supply current limit mode 1/2 amp, set it to maybe 9 volts, stick that on the input of the regulator and just measure what's on the output, and very, very carefully, quickly, just make sure there's no more than 5 volts passing through. Right, you know what's coming next, it's got to be Ghouls and Ghosts. Let me go and get my other SD card that's got the Hue cards on it. So I've changed the SD card over to one that's got Hue cards. Hang on, pressed the wrong blooming button again. Let's go into there. So G, oh, is it? It begins with D, doesn't it? Daikamara or something. Yeah, there it is. Japanese. I can't see for the sun. It's super bright. Why are the two? That's B1. That's bad. I think B means a bad. So let's just load that first one. And see what happens. Well, it's looking good so far. Oh my god, this is fantastic. This is just an absolutely fantastic pickup. It's like I say, I couldn't have bought this without all the contributions and help and support I've had from people. And my friend who wants to remain anonymous on this video, I just can't thank him enough. You know you're fantastic, mate, and everybody else who's helped with Patreon as well, because I haven't put much Patreon money towards this, but it was a real big gamble. It was £120, I think, which is a lot of money, but these things sell for, you know, £200-300 generally. It's boxed, it's very dirty, it's got a bit of obviously a chip on the plastic there, but I never thought I'd own one of these. This is just amazing. Absolutely fantastic. So what do we do next? Well, you can see I brought it over to the SD mat here. I want to remove the video cable. It's just hindering, it's annoying, it's unnecessary. It's not even got an amplification circuit there. You know, you really want to be amplifying the RGB levels and attenuating and stuff properly and all that sort of stuff. And there's none of that going on here. This is just, you know, cables connected straight to the blooming things. So whilst it works, it's, you know, I wouldn't want to leave it like this. So we'll add a bit of solder and we'll just start to remove these wires, and then I can use the solder sucker. I mean, that one there, I can't even see how it's connected. Look, is it down the side here? I think it is. There's so much solder there, it's ridiculous. It really is. We're going to get shorts just by virtue of removing these here now. I think the reason we've ended up with such large blobs is because these pads are absorbing a lot of heat. You can see. Might have to get the desolder station onto this in a minute. I can't move that wire out of the way now. Oh, there it goes. It's come off on its own. But we've got a short there, you can see that. But I'm going to remove all this solder because it just looks blooming awful. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is the ground here. This is why this is absorbing all this heat, look. But if we just give it time, it'll eventually start to come free. It's there, it's free now, look. Let's do the same with these. So again, same sort of thing up here, just heat and remove. And then, as I say, we'll get the desolder pump onto it, maybe a bit of flux, and just reflow the solder points. These have just all got way too much solder on. You never know, that might be why the fuse went. Someone might have done this mod and something may have shorted. Anyway, so the other thing I'm not sure about is why this here is connected down here. I am honestly not sure. I'm going to leave that just for now. Maybe there's a bad connection there. I mean, what we can do, because I don't like the size of that blob of solder on there, is we can just try and reflow that. Maybe use the solder socket to remove any excess, if there's excess there. No, you can see straight away that's tidied up, hopefully. It's just a tiny little solder point there now. I'll give you a close look at that in a minute. But yeah, just for the moment I'm leaving that there, because obviously it's serving some purpose, and I don't think it's got anything to do with the video thing here. So that now means the motherboard is free. Let's just put that somewhere safe. So yeah, I think they've drilled a hole here for this, but yeah, I'm not too bothered about that. I'd rather just get rid of the bloody thing. So if we just sort of, I don't know, try and push it back through. If they glued it in, I hope they haven't glued it in. It looks like it's glued in on the inside there, look. Oh, that tape's all sticky. I'll tell you what, I'm going to just cut it. I'm going to cut the wire from this side here. If I could just prise it out a little bit. There we go. There we go. Awful video cable out of the way. It's horrible. It's all gooey and everything as well, that. So yeah, I can always stick something over that, I don't know, and smooth off the whole, you know, it's not the end of the world. But I don't need that, I don't want that, it just looks a mess. So now we've got rid of the awful cable, let's just try and clear the solder points up here. And then once I've done this, we'll try it on the bench power supply, feeding 9 volts in, and just see what's what really. So again, I'm just going to add a little bit of solder, don't really need it, there's tons there, look. And we'll use the desolder pump. I could use the ZD915 desolder station, obviously that's going to make the easiest work of this, but yeah, and we'll remove it all because I don't know whether they've used leaded solder, lead-free solder, we don't really know, do we, and it's just crusty as anything. Let's try and get the iron in that side like that. It's going to take a number of attempts because there's just so much blooming solder. The better way of modding one of these, rather than sticking a cable out of it, is to repurpose this video socket here, because this will, I think this output's composite, doesn't it? Left-right audio composite as default. So you could put, and I think Voltar's done similar mods like that in the past, where you stick a socket that's got a large number of pins. You might have to drill a few holes for the pins. There's some wire there, look, I wonder what that was. Just shake that off. Yeah, so you could replace the socket entirely, and then somewhere within here, you just put a little amp board. There's plenty of little amp boards available that use really nice little discrete ICs to amplify the video signals there and to get the attenuation right and stuff, to couple it. I showed one of those. I've shown one of those previously. One when I did the 10 key thing, RGB modded a 10 key, one of those memory adapters. I did it there. I did the same thing, used the same PCB when I got my Super CD-ROM repaired, actually, the one I picked up. It was the first Super CD-ROM 2. I looked at on my channel. Yeah, this wire there again, look. Again, this is where more heat would help a lot, so using the solder station and the soldering iron would help with this, but you can see I'm managing it. It's only a 15 watt iron this, but look, remove most of that solder there. And do the same here. Most of that's gone now. So then finally we'll just we'll reflow this, and then we'll just clean it up with the toothbrush and well, I'll use a cotton bud first, but then we'll use a toothbrush and some IPA, give it a nice good scrub. But hopefully you can see it's looking better already. There's just tons of flux around it, it's dirty. Nice equal size solder points. Let's try and do that one. It's looking so much better already, that. So cotton bud with some IPA. It's going to be pretty hard work getting rid of this, I think, because the flux is just so thick there. Now you could argue the whole board needs a good clean, because the way that NEC tended to leave these boards from manufacturers, lots of flux around everything, but you know what, I ain't going to do that. I'm not going to go to town with it. I'm just going to clean it off here where it needs cleaning off, and then just inspect the rest of the PCB to make sure there's nothing that would benefit from a clean. But like the flux around the processor and graphics chip and stuff like that, there's no point in removing it, it'll be fine. But you could, if you just wanted to make the board look super presentable. You can see just how much better that is already just from using the cotton bud here. I'm not going to need to do very much with the toothbrush, I don't think, but the toothbrush will help, because there's just like little gaps in between them and stuff, like between those two there, and in between those two, and in between these two, that you can't really get to with the cotton bud. You can get around the edges okay, but not in between them. And I'll just inspect that super closely to make sure we didn't get any bridges there, but yeah, I think you'll agree it's a lot better, and I don't think there's going to be any bridges. It'd be hard to imagine a bridge between any of those after having done that. That just looks so much better. So the other problem I'll show you here, look at this, it's hanging off. This might be where the fuse went. this cable here has been, maybe from when someone did the mod. They've done look, it's broken off, look. They've done an RGB mod. I've hardly moved this at all, and it's just broken straight off. So we need to remember that the grey goes to pin 1. But yeah, this could be the cause of the whole thing. Grey to pin 1 or white to pin 1 there. So let's unblock those holes. This is the thing, you see, people get a half-baked idea. They think, oh, I know, I'm going to RGB this system myself. I'm not going to research it. Oh, I can't bother with one of those video amplifiers. I'll just stick 3 wires on. That looks super simple. Let me get the ZD915 onto it. But while that's heating up, we can have a look at these pins here that need redoing. Look. Those 2 are bridged. This is the other problem, you know, if you have giant blobs of solder like that, expect things to bridge. Expect shorts. You don't want giant things like that on there. You just don't. So again, you can see that's looking a lot better already. Let's just clean the tip. And we'll just reflow all 3 with a little bit of solder there. Yep, that'll do. A little bit of IPA. There's no point even using the cotton bud on there because you can't do much with the cotton bud when it's just all pins super close together like they are there. Still need to research that wire because I ain't sure what they're doing with that. It's going to the actual hue card connector, so that's a bit strange. So I used the desolder pump to remove the bits of wire out of there. That's the best way, because if you use your desolder station, those bits of wire, they're going to go up the nozzle and block it. But you can see I've removed the 3 bits of wire from there now. So let's just put that down. And we need to carefully strip off the ends of this now. So yeah, that first one's come off there because I can see the wire. But it's a question of how do you get to the next one. What you'll have to do is just cut down this way a little bit like that, and that one there to separate them. Just to give you a bit of space, I think we'll do the one on the other side next. Let's just nip again carefully into the housing and then just grip and pull. There we go, that's 2 done. You can see both end ones. This one here's still got a bit of housing there, look. Let's see if we can... Sorry, you might not be able to see this because it's so close in here. Anyway, we can just pull that one out of the way a little bit. Let's try and do the middle one. Last time I had to do this was on my Super CD-ROM 2. There's a wire thing like this on there. So you can see those 2. So you can see the 2 there are pretty exposed. This one's still got a bit of the housing on it. So let's just have another go at this one over here. And just try and grip again. Just pull carefully. There you go. So you can see we've managed that. We don't need to twist them because they seem already twisted around each other. So we can just literally feed that back through. So pin 1 was the white one. So it wants to go like this here. I'd hope that wire's long enough now. That might be one problem. You know, you lose a little bit of length like that. It can be a problem. Well, I think it fits here, doesn't it? So I think that'll be okay. Yeah, so if we just turn it over and solder our 3 points here. And just holding the wire from the other side there. Now the interesting thing, there's 3 connections here, which worries me a bit. I was assuming that just like 9 volts comes into this, just like on the other models. But you never know, it might have some sort of bespoke power supply. I don't think so. And if we just trim the ends of those down now a little bit, because they don't need to be that long. And again, we'll clean it with the cotton bud and toothbrush. So I've cleaned with the cotton bud again, and we'll just use the toothbrush here again, just around the regulator, because I soldered the wrong points to start with, thinking that was the 3 connections when it wasn't. It was these 3 here. But that's looking okay, nice and tidy. I'll just inspect to make sure that none of those are shorted. So whilst I'm not prepared at this stage to clean the whole board, we may as well clean around this connector, you know, the controller connector here, because the flux from manufacture is just awful. That is just terrible. You know, you can't see what's bridge and what isn't. And it is just the flux, the solder points are okay there. So finally we'll remove the fuse here. I'll just add a little bit of solder, just to help it flow. And we'll try and desolder these. Again, it's going to absorb tons of heat because there's massive connections on that fuse. This one side. Can't really hold it from the other side because your finger starts to burn, that's the problem. There we go. And we can just do a bit of that again, try and pivot them both, you know, to snap them off kind of thing. If we flip the board over, all being well with a little wobble, the fuse should come off. It's come off on one side really well, not on the other one so much. What I'm going to try and do here, I'll show you a technique. These fuses you can replace, you know, yourself kind of thing, even if you can't get them with the solder tabs on. Yeah, that one's still stuck a bit, so let's just use the iron just to free that up. There we go. And we'll just unblock the hole. Yeah, that's unblocked. I didn't think it was. So the way I would do this is with one of these helping hand things here. I mean, it's an awful thing. It really is. Look, the thing's moving around there. Look. Let's just twist that. Stick that like that there. And we can use this to help us solder them on as well. But if we just heat that for long enough, there you go. You can see that's come off. So I'll go and get another fuse. This one's 1.25 amp. So the only fuses I've got at the moment is a 1 amp and 1.6. I don't want to put 1.6 in because that's just risking a little bit. I think provided it, you know, if I test it and it works and a 1 amp fuse doesn't blow, that's better. So yeah, so there's a few things you can do. If you've got like a file, use a file to file. In fact, I've got one. Yeah, so file the end of the fuse like this here in different angles, get it all roughed up, because that makes it easy for solder to bite. You know, as long as you've got some good flux in the solder, it will bite into the surface there, and you will be able to solder that leg back on there. I'm pretty sure that's what they do at manufacture anyway for these. You know, it's not like it's spot welded on, it was soldered onto the fuse. So if we now just add a bit of solder to the top of the fuse there. Initially it might not flow very well, there you go, until you get a bit of heat. Look, you can see then we had a nice bubble. So I'll get some fresh solder there. I'll just try and hold it underneath the position there like that. You need to hold it because it's going to take time for that to cool down. Look, and grip, it's still not quite there, look. Oh, it is, yeah, it's there. So that's one side done. We just need to do the same on the other side. So again, I'll file it in a minute. Let's get the other side off that one. I'll try and see how far it goes up actually when it comes off the leg. Yeah, it's kind of in the middle. So that's the old fuse out of the way. I mean, the worst that can happen is an underrated fuse is it blows. It might blow straight away, especially with the Super ST System 3 on there as well, but I doubt it. But what they tend to do is they tend to overrate them. So there'll be a 1.5 amp fuse, and it's probably drawing about 700 milliamps or something like that. Maybe 800 or 900, but still, I think it'll be okay. We might need to straighten the legs a little bit. I'll just stick a wet finger there. Yeah, so there's our fuse. So yeah, the legs are going to need a little bend. Now it's still pretty hot that. We've got a little bit of extra solder just overhanging there. Can you see that? I'll just cut that off. I'll just make it look a bit tidier. Yeah, there we go. So there's our replacement fuse. There we go. Because there's a lot of thermal mass on that fuse, it doesn't, you know, you think the leg would come straight off and it doesn't. As long as you don't heat too long, the solder points on this side here remain connected because it takes so much heat to, you know, get those legs to come off the actual fuse itself. Anyway, we'll just double check that to make sure that fuse is still okay. Because obviously when you heat fuses, maybe you could damage it. But yeah, that's working. So I think without further ado, now all of the stuff on there I want to deal with has been dealt with. You know, it's pretty clean. There's some flux on here, but like I said, it's flux from manufacture. But we cleaned up the connector here, we cleaned up the controller port connector, we cleaned up the AV connector there, we refitted the power socket here. I'm going to go give this a try. Other observations I think while I'm here as well, something I might do, I might stick a small heatsink on both of these. And certainly this one here, this is the sort of arbitration for these video chips here. So, you know, if that fails, the only place you're going to get one of those is another Supergrafx. If one of these fails, you can get them off a PC Engine. or a TurboGrafx or something, you know, the 6270 GPU. But these are right next to this heatsink. It's crazy, and these are quite common to fail from my experience. So yeah, I would stick a little heatsink on these further over to the right, you know, over this side rather than near the heatsink. Just a little heatsink. So I think I'll do that. While I'm here, I might as well stick a heatsink on each of those as well. You know, it's not going to be a big problem. The other thing you could do is maybe get a fan inside here or something, just a small one. You could power it from the 9 volts input, but you need to make sure it doesn't interfere with the video and stuff. That's one of the problems with that. You stick a fan in there, you could hear a whine. In fact, we'll stick the heatsinks on now, but what I'm going to do before I do that is just clean the tops of the chips, because there is flux on the package. You know, if you look at this one here, can you see it looks glossy? There. They do stick flux, you know, all around the thing, right on the top. So if we just clean that off, it just means the heatsink's going to make a better join, isn't it? It's not going to fall off at some point in the future just because of that flux. They're only cheap, these heatsinks. You can get like 8 for about £1.50 or something like that. And I'm not sure they're genuine copper, but you know what? It'll just help dissipate a bit of heat. I would like to try and keep this running as long as possible. And the other thing, obviously, for preservation and keeping it, you know, extending its life, is you could recap it. But I'll do that in a future video. Right now, I just want to make sure these don't overheat. The RAM I am not bothered about, because you can get replacement RAMs all over the blooming place. I mean, that might be a problem in another 20 years from now. You might not be able to source some of these RAM chips then, but at the moment there's plenty of stock of these. You could just stock up on them if you were a bit concerned about having a failure at some point in future. The RAM does occasionally fail on PC engines, but yeah, it's not as frequent as on other systems perhaps. There we go. So if you want the hints and tips on tracing the actual faults on these and dealing with GPU faults and shorts and things like that, just check out some of the other PC engine repair videos I've done, because I have looked at a number of these now and I've had fairly varied faults with them and stuff. GPUs have been issues actually, I think, on 2 occasions now. But they've had slightly different behaviours and things like that, and there might be some hints and tips and things in there that you might be able to use to diagnose a fault in one of these, you know, because it's the same chips. The only difference is you've got 2 GPUs versus 1. You've got that extra chip there for the control and arbitration of the GPUs, and obviously extra RAM. Each GPU's got its own VRAM here. But they are quite a simple system. At the same time, is they're really powerful. I really love this system for how powerful it is, actually, how capable it is. In particular, I love the sound. I mean, it gives some great graphics as well, but I do love the sound of the PC engine. I fell in love with it the minute I've heard one of these for the first time. So yeah, there you go. So yeah, I mean, I haven't done what I said I was going to do. I was going to move them further across this way. They need to be centralised really to get the most heat dissipation out of a chip. Yeah, so that'll do, I think. So we'll reassemble it now and give it a try. Oh, this is one of those repairs that never ends. I thought I'll have to test it this way. The reason being is I've got a PC Engine Super CD-ROM power supply here. It's a third-party one, I think. It's got the larger DIN, as you can see. Centre positive. This appears to be centre negative. So I've just took it apart. I was about to connect the crock clips up to feed 9 volts straight into the regulator here and see if it powers it. And look at this here, because it's flopping here on this side. This one, this side is broken off, look. It's barely hanging on. So yeah, I'm more than certain that the power issues on this are all because someone did a mod and damaged the connector on both sides. You know, this side's nice and stiff now, but that side's just hanging off, look. It's about to fall off. So hopefully you can just about see the meter there. I'm measuring the 5 volt line. And if I just touch the connector here, 9 volts coming in onto the input, say that, 5 volts. So the regulator's okay. It's not like there's a short or anything, the fuse hasn't blown. So we are in a good position. But I don't have a power supply that will work with this connector. I mean, you can see I've resoldered that back on there now, so that should be good. So I can finish reassembling it, I think. I will clean up the case next. In the meantime, I'm going to go away and just research the power supply a bit. I'm just confused as to how the Super CD-ROM has got a different polarity to this. I mean, if I just put this on volts DC. Yeah, so Super CD-ROM power supply here, I think, is centre positive. Yeah, it is, look. You know, if I was to swap these around, put the negative in there, it will show a negative on the display, which shows that this, the outer part there, is ground and the centre is positive. And if I just carefully use the meter here and I'll just show you, if we measure from the heatsink here, this is ground, to in here, centre negative, look. Just check the bottom. Yeah, you see the bottom's nothing. So the next thing we'll do here is just submerge these in the sink and give them a good scrub. So after washing the sink, it came out pretty well actually. I had to use some soap and water in the corners here. You know, you can see there were just little bits that you can't get into when it's in the sink and using a sponge or a scrubbing brush or whatever. So yeah, there's just a few little bits like that. But yeah, overall, that's come out like new actually. There's a little mark there, so I'll just get a little bit of IPA onto some paper towel. We'll just see if we can just get that little black mark off. It's like a cable mark or something. It may or may not come off. Can you see it just there? Could always try some plastic cleaner. No, it's coming off, look. One thing I would say is if you're going to use plastic cleaner, stay well away from printed stuff like that blue logo there. But yeah, as you can see, that black mark has gone. Yeah, it's looking almost good as new, that. So I'll just give the cartridge slot a little clean there, because it's looking a little bit dusty, actually. The easy way to clean up the U-card contacts here is just get a U-card, stick a cotton bud and some IPA, wipe over the contacts on the card, and then just stick the card in and out of the slot a good 10 to 20 times. That's the easy way of doing that. You could repeat, you know, keep cleaning the contacts on the card, put it back in again, clean the contacts on the card, put it back in again, etc. So other things you might want to do while you're here, obviously, is recap it, but you can see I've got heat sinks on everything, and I'll just cover things because you can't really see them because I've got the heat sinks on there. That's the 6260, that's the video DAC, 6280 CPU, audio and input. You know, your controller inputs go through that. So if you've got problems with controller, well, your first port with controller problems is here, this 157. It looks like it goes, I'm presuming, well, maybe that's just related to that actually, so I could be wrong. I think on the other ones you don't have a 157, the controller ports just go through these, some of these ferrite bead things here, you know, it's like a cap and an inductor in one package to filter them out, and the connections go straight across here. So yeah, just bear that in mind if you get controller problems. Sound comes out of here as well. It's going to be amplified with an op amp. I don't know whether that's what this little device is here. Maybe it could be. Obviously you've got your main crystal here. It's obviously 60 Hz, this system, NTSC. 6202 here, I think it is. I'll correct that if I'm wrong, I'll stick it up there. Yeah, the arbitration between these, you know, so this is what makes this a Supergrafx compared to a normal PC engine. And then two 6270s here, and each has got, I think, 64k of RAM there. So you can see the fuse looks alright. It's not quite as level as I would have liked, you know, one leg I perhaps didn't solder low enough down, but as you can see, that's fine. I've tested that, it works with 1 amp, no problems at all. I've used it for a number of hours. And your work RAM is down here for the CPU, 8K I think that is. So I cleaned up the odd spot that I found on here, but yeah, I mean, other than, you know, the manufacturing flux here, it's pretty good actually. There were no issues. I think this is a factory mod actually. I did briefly look at the pinout. I think this is like an address line or a data line or something. So yeah, I think that's a factory mod. It looks too tidy to me to be considered as a fixed mod by somebody else, and I don't see how the damage, you know, where the damage would be. The other thing I'll point out is I recently saw an article on Smoke Monster's blog, I think it was. I can't remember where it was now, and he was pointing out there's a common issue where, I don't know, some pressure somewhere on the cartridge slot here can fracture, I think, the PCB here. So it's always worth having an inspection here just to make sure everything looks okay. But yeah, I mean, everything's fine here as far as I can see. I don't know how you would damage that. I mean, obviously it's something to do with putting pressure here when you put the game cards in, but yeah, everything's looking okay, I think. Obviously check your pins are all straight here as well, and none of them are pushed back or bent out to the sides. So the way to reassemble this is, yeah, make sure the switch is maybe to the left or the right, whichever way you want to do it. Make sure the switch on the board is the same way, so it's to the left. Yeah, so lower that, try and get that connector there in, as you can see, and then just kind of lower it down. We need to watch this doesn't get trapped here, and this just carefully go back into there. That's it, and then I think that's it. We'll just at this point, it's a good idea just to test the power switch. So the next thing we need is the shielding. Now, it did cross my mind that, do you remember the crazy solder points here? These were ginormous. I mean, they really were giant solder blobs. There is a minor possibility that it's shorted with the underneath of the shield in here, because it only stands off so far. I mean, well, actually, I don't think the solder balls were that big, but you know what? They were pretty big. So yeah, it's certainly possible. I don't see how else the power could have shorted. The other thing was, if we just put this down here, you will see there's an important piece, and I wonder if this was the issue. Because if you don't have this under here, there is a risk of, you know, shielding short into some of the things around here. Now, I can't quite remember how this goes on now. I think it goes under here like this or something. Does it? Which way around does it go? Yeah, I think that goes like that there, actually. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it goes like that. Before we stick that on, sorry I'm forgetting. We've obviously got the 2 screws here that I removed and the 2 screws here. So I've got the screws back in here. We've got this piece of plastic over here. Shielding can then go over, and then I think it's just a case of putting the bottom piece back on here. That's it, that marries up okay. And if we get all these screws back in, turn it the wrong way first, so like you feel click. There we go. And then turn it the right way. So you can see even after washing, the serial numbers and things didn't come off, you know, all this label, everything's alright here. So this was presumably who imported this, Supervision Electronic, Mansfield, Nottingham. Very interesting. Yeah, that's an old telephone number. So I'm guessing that this was the company that, you know, imported these. Maybe they sold them or maintained them. So looking absolutely fantastic. It's a shame about that little piece missing there. What annoys me is, why didn't someone glue that back on, or at least, you know, keep it with the system or something so it could be stuck back on. It's a bit crazy. Could always do what I've done on other things, like I did on that BBC. You know, what you can do is, you know, take the lid off, obviously pin something here across there, pin something across there to get a nice edge around there, and then fill it from the inside with like one of those plastic putty sort of things, and create an artificial lip, you know, and smooth it off and all that, and you could paint it with a dark grey paint like that. I don't think I'm bothered. What I might just do is stick a piece of black vinyl just around that. I'll do one on that side there just so it matches, and you won't be able to see it then. The other thing I'll do is just block that hole there, again with a very small piece of black vinyl over there, just so that bugs don't get in, because there's a few ways they can get in through the holes and things here, but anyway, that's that. And obviously this needs to go back over here, and it's kind of like a rubbery sort of plastic. Those 2 bits at the top just sit into the holes there, look, and it kind of holds itself in place there, look. So I mean, that says, what's it say there, SEXP, so that's some sort of expansion port. Not sure if anything was ever created to use that. So while we're here, we'll clean this up as well. I'll just get the 5 screws out the back, and then the lid just pulls off. We'll clean those screws up with the fiberglass pen, because they're really dirty actually. They've got like bits of corrosion on the end and dirt and all sorts. But we'll get that piece into the sink, take the cable out of the cable relief there, carefully pull the board out. So we'll clean up the contacts on there, show you that in a sec. We'll clean up the contacts here as well, I'll show you that in a sec. So cotton bud with IPA, we'll clean the top side here just because there's a lot of dirt, look, on the actual surface here. But then the main thing we want to do is, can you see those are shiny? We just want to use a little bit of IPA, just gently rub, you can see some black stuff comes off with that, and just kind of level them out a little bit. Yeah, can you see that? It's not as shiny now as the one on that side there, so it's going to make a better connection electrically with the PCB. Finally, just again, a gentle wipe with IPA. You don't want to wipe very much at all on the auto fire contacts here, look. Same on these. Same on these. You can wipe over this with a dry cotton bud afterwards. So that's a scrub in the sink. You can see we've got like a bit of a melt mark there or something that's going to need chipping off. And you can see here it's looking a bit browny yellow around there. Yeah, so I've just got some IPA on a rag here, and if we just try and press into that, yeah, can you see that? Look at that, it's coming off. The soap and water in the sink and the brush, scrubbing brush, didn't get that off. Sometimes you need just a little bit of IPA or plastic cleaner. So with these, can you see the metal is kind of dull? So all I'm going to do is use the fiberglass pen. So as you can see, I've got that wedge there, just so that I can get a little bit of friction from the fiberglass pen on the top here. Can you see that's coming up super clean? That one's coming up super clean. Yeah, the nice thing with the fiberglass pen is you won't leave scratches and things here, and that's what you want. You want a nice, clean, smooth surface. So this is kind of an update. Previously I might have shown scratching these with a bit of fine sandpaper or something, but I don't think that's the right approach. I think fiberglass pen is the best thing because it's non-abrasive. So that one's now super, super, super clean. See if you can show you the difference. Look at the difference between those two. Can you see? So if we now get those in, they need to go with a little springy sort of piece of plastic to that side there. You can see that'll allow it to slide up and down the little notches there. Get it the right way up. Yeah, so that's both of those. We can now get the PCB back into position. So we can now get this back into there, like that. Yeah, there's a few bits of dust on that side, but just flip it over, test the buttons and things. Yeah, I mean it's looking, can you see it's looking a bit dirty there, it's looking a bit dirty there, it's the plastic that's melted. But anyway, we'll finish getting that back together. So we just need to carefully put the back over there and get the screws in. So the final things here, we've got some plastics onto here because you can see it's looking a bit dull and a bit scratched around there. I did sort of lightly use it here and you can maybe see the difference, I don't know. But we'll do that in a sec. Got a bit of IPA on a rag. I'm just now going to clean up the cable actually. Just do a bit of this up and down the length of it and it'll just get any dirt off there. You can see there's not a massive amount on there. So I've cleaned up the connector there as well and I used a toothbrush just to get into the little gaps and things there, so all that plastic housing's okay. I've cleaned the metal part there with IPA. The other thing I'll just use is just gently here. You don't want to be bending the pins here. Just get some IPA in there, or some contact cleaner might be an idea, but you can just have a bit of a brush in the different directions there. What you don't want to do is bend these pins, but with something like this, they aren't going to bend the pins. It's not going to be an issue. So finally, I'll go over this with a bit of plastics. You're going to get it into the gaps between the buttons and around the edges and things like that. You can use the toothbrush to get that off afterwards. So I'm not too worried, I'm not too worried about going all around the cavities and getting around the edges here. But if we just gently rub that around, it should bring it looking pretty good actually. So there we go, there's our final result. Let's go and test it. So that piece of vinyl there, it's not as flat or as tidy as it could be, it's just to block the hole. And as you can see, I stuck a piece of vinyl there, but I stuck one on the other side just to match. It kind of makes it symmetrical. And you know what, from a distance you'd never know that's not part of the design. So yeah, overall, it's come out really, really well. So the next thing I need to do is go and find a power supply. So sorry, we've got a massive light bloom at the top there from the sun. So we'll do pad test. This is from Chris Covell. Shown this before, so select run, A, B, directions. Let's try doing the auto fire. Yeah, middle speed, off. That one, fast speed, middle speed, off. Yep, sweet. So I thought we'd have a quick look at each of the Supergrafx games here. This one's old NES. Now these are on a Hue card, so you might think they would work on a PC Engine, but no, they need the second GPU that the Supergrafx provides. So this is a shmup. It's pretty good. I quite like this one. It's one of the better games, I think. I won't show you too much of this. The other thing I will do is, as a separate video, I'll show you the modifications I did to the to add a cap onto the Super SD System 3. Been meaning to get that video up for a long time. It's been sat on my hard disk for, I don't know, 18 months plus at least. But yeah, the sound comes out crystal clear here for me. Anyway, that's that game. So this next one is 1941 Counter-Attack. I was a fan of the other one. Is it 1942 or 1943? The one you can get for the PC Engine. Kai, I think it's called. Yeah. What I would say, while this is, obviously got perhaps more sprites and less flicker and stuff because of the number of sprites it can support on 2 GPUs, I don't like this as much as the original game actually on the PC Engine. The prior game, which works on every PC Engine, I think is a better game. It's got better music, and it just seems to play better. Although this is a good shmup, it's certainly a welcome game for the Supergrafx. I mean, you could argue the power-ups on this are a bit easier than the other 1943 game, or whatever it is. So yeah, cool boss battles and things at the end of each round. But I do prefer 1943 Kai, I think it is. So the next one here is Battle Ace. So I'll skip that, let's just jump straight in. Is this the 3D sort of, yeah it is, sort of a 3D-ish shooter. It's kind of like Afterburner meets space, I guess. Well, maybe not even space because you can see clouds down below there. Maybe at some point you go into space on this, but yeah, you move the cursor around, lock on like that, press the missile button, just like you do at Afterburner. A bit underwhelming, I think. Nothing particularly special about this. And you know what? I think I prefer Afterburner. So you've got machine guns, obviously. You've got your lock-on missiles. Yeah, nothing to write home about. So the next one is Valkyrie no Densetsu. I'm not sure how you say that. But this looks pretty good actually. I can see myself getting into this. So let's press start. It's a Namco game, isn't it? Namcot. Skip that. Can't read the Japanese text. So yeah, Japanese only, but yeah, there's no problem with the language barrier here playing this, I don't think. But again, you know, is it anything to write home about? Does it really showcase what this could do versus a standard PC engine? I'm not so sure. But it might do in places when you start getting lots of enemies on the screen or something like that, or maybe large enemies where it's using a lot more sprites, but nothing spectacular. Kind of reminds me of one of the Alpha Denshi games, this actually. The one where you go into that haunted house and save the little babies, the children. So the next one is Mado Granzort. I think this is a sort of side-scrolling sort of thing, where you're a robot or something. Yeah. So again, nothing to write home about. It looks pretty basic to start with. You know, alright, it's got nice scrolling there in the background and the sprites are pretty large. It's not bad when you get into it, this. You get power-ups and things. It's quite fun. But nevertheless, again, it's not worth, you know, rushing out to get a Supergrafx just to play this game. So the next one to show you is Darius Plus. Now, interestingly, this will work, I think, on a standard PC engine, despite the fact it's marked as SGX. But you just get more sprites and less flicker and stuff, I think, in this mode, you know, running on Supergrafx. But I despise this game, I hate it. It's just too difficult. Yeah, it's not very playable, in my opinion. Oh, crashed already. Oh. And last but not least, Dai Makimura, which is Ghosts and Goblins, or Ghouls and Ghosts rather. And this is really good. I prefer this version to, I don't know, dare I say it, the SNES? I do quite like this version. So this might have been a system seller back in the day, and this is probably the main reason why people try to get a Supergrafx these days to play this game. It's got really nice tight controls, I mean, despite the fact I'm playing really badly here. I'm not going to get past this boss, I don't think, without my armour. So yeah, it came out absolutely fantastic. I've had some great fun playing on this. Special thanks to my patrons for helping support my channel, because without Patreon support my channel would have stopped at the point where I had no job. Now I've got this part-time job now working for a friend, but it's only like 2 days a week. My money is like, you know, take a drop, you know, sort of considerably. So yeah, without Patreon the channel wouldn't exist, so thank you very, very much. Other things to mention with this, the switch here, I've only had to use this once. The mode it's in now, set to the left, I think everything works for the most part. You might just find the odd hue card, you know, the old game, like for example Space Harrier is a good example. If I try loading Space Harrier with that switch in that position, whilst the Supergrafx games work okay, Space Harrier, when we start the game, I think the main sprite is missing or something. It just freezes. I can't quite remember what it does now, but it doesn't work. You switch it off, switch the switch over, Space Harrier then works. So that's like a compatibility switch. If you've got old hue cards that don't work in the Supergrafx mode to the left, switch it to the other way and you'll find it will work. So it's not like you can only play the Supergrafx games on this, you can play all of the PC Engine library. And as you saw, you know, I had the Super SD System 3, the Proto connected to the back, but the fully housed one, you know, fits as well. So if you've got something like the Super SD CD-ROM from Terra Onion, you could play hue cards, all of the hue cards for the Supergrafx and CD games as well. So yeah, fantastic. I do hope you found the video interesting. I'll catch you in the next video.